Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Talking Liberties, an event in the Clifton Litfest. And because it's a poetry event, then obviously things go wrong right at the start. You don't know the running order, but we do, and one poet has gone to the wrong library. But poets in libraries, it doesn't matter where they are, it's just good to have a poet in a library. Anyway, hopefully the poet is now in an Uber, making the poet's way across the city, probably as poets do, working out the set from the back seat of an Uber at this very moment. But we're cool about that, and we're going to just adjust accordingly. I'd like to say that we've got a fantastic lineup, minus a poet or so, but at this moment we've got a fantastic lineup this afternoon, and in advance I'd like to thank you all for coming along and making this show of strength for poetry in the city. Because one of the things that I think has been really difficult in putting this lineup together has been choosing the poets from the incredible fireworks display of poetry that is in the city at the moment. This is just one event happening this month. If you're looking for it, there is poetry all over the city every week. And if you hadn't heard about it, have a word afterwards with me, with Tim, Clifton Fringe, yes, Ashley is there, and various other people will be who are organising poetry events as well as the poets. I'd just like to say that this event has been organised by the Friends of Clifton Centre and Library, who put on the whole festival this weekend. It's unfunded, it's entirely voluntary from the committee and the volunteers who have rallied round for what is a tremendous range of events over the weekend, and they've been working at it since last year's festival. So there are people who are doing it just for the love of literature, love of books, love of reading, love of ideas, love of words, just as you are this afternoon. I haven't introduced myself yet, but my name's Bob Walton.
And I'm Sue Hill, and we're going to be your MCs for this afternoon. Bob and I work under the name of The Right Box, and The Right Box was formed in 2018 when we started some creative writing workshops for the centenary for Armistice Day, and last Friday was the anniversary of The Right Box. We work closely with Theatre Orchard and Chapter 1 Creative Writing Group, which we formed in 2019. So we started running a creative writing group to start with in person, but then when COVID hit, we went online, and actually it was a saviour for a lot of people who began to join us from different places. So we actually had people from, someone from Australia, someone from Connecticut, someone from Malaysia and Margate, so all over. One of our inspiring guests in our Chapter 1 group was Patrick Gale, so I believe that he's doing a session this weekend, so that'll be amazing if you can catch that one. The Right Box also runs a biannual speakeasy event, which is an evening event, and we try to do a mix between live and online, and we have a fantastic guest poet each session, and also some open mic slots, so if you're interested, have a word with us and we can pop you in there, that'd be great.
Okay, thanks Sue. Talking Liberties, the name for today's event. One of the themes running through the whole festival this year is that of truth and the search for truth, the bending of truth, the difficulty of finding truth and the declaring truth. And Shelley famously said about poets being the legislators of the world, and although poetry is often seen as a marginal, small corner-hugging activity where people retreat into rooms and write, then obviously it isn't, as you're showing. but it isn't that at all across the country or across the world. It is a voice which is at the edge of the establishment voices, as far as we can see. It's a voice which is taking us towards the truth, prizing away at the truth, and the poets we've got this afternoon are going to take us into that world, and hopefully you'll come away excited, questioning, puzzled, entertained, and having a sense of what was that thought that went through my mind? What was that feeling I felt? The formalities are fire exit, chair at the side. Phones are off, aren't they? Or on silent? Because I've seen Caleb handle someone's phone going off beautifully. I've seen him in the middle of reading and he just plays with it. And
I don't remember that.
You don't? I do. Yeah. It just came naturally, Caleb. I'm going to start us off by reading a poem. And Sue mentioned 4 years ago when the Right Box got established. It was at the Pages of the Sea event, which marked 100 years of armistice on November the 11th in 2018. And we ran some workshops in Weston-super-Mare, and there was a huge event on Weston Beach with poetry, with song, with music, with drama, with dance. And there was one event was the face of a soldier who had been killed, a soldier from Somerset who had been killed shortly before the end of the First World War, John Maitland Hardiman, and that was inscribed into the sand. I think, Martin, you were there. And it was the face of the silhouette of John Hardiman was scratched into the sand, a huge picture of it, and then they waited for the waves to come in and wash it away. And that was such a beautiful image. So a page of the sea. This pen is my rifle. I have you in my sights. I'm writing your story. These words give you life, the wrinkle in your brow, your weary eyes staring into a black hole, the mud crusting your moustache, your cracked lips muttering a prayer, page after page of your time and tide, wave after wave pulsing from the horizon, the family you left, fields you trudged, the bullets you fired and the stars you counted. This pen is my rifle. This ink is my blood. This page is your body, my enemy, my friend. As I lay my pen to rest, your story is a wave that breaks on the shore. Thank you. Edson, do you want to make yourself comfortable?
I'm really so comfortable. And inconspicuous. You're doing very well.
You've been sitting in the back of a taxi, mate. Thank you. Put it on expenses. We just wait a moment. Okay.
Thank you, Bob. Very moving. Okay, so first up to the stage, we have Elizabeth Parker. Elizabeth grew up in a garden centre in the Forest of Dean, and after working as an English teacher in North Somerset, which is where I got to know Lizzie as a colleague in Welsh School, She now lives in Ashton and combines writing full-time with being a mother of 2 boys. Her poetry has been published in many journals, including Magma, Stony Thursday, The Interpreter's House and Agenda. And she's been prize winner in the annual Troubadour International Poetry Prize. Following her 2016 pamphlet, Antinopolis, her debut collection In Her Shambles was published by Seren in 2018. I think we've got some In Her Shambles over there for later. And her next collection, Core, will appear...
Cormorant.
Sorry.
No, it's all right, that's Bob's nickname for it. Core.
Okay, the nickname, Cormorant, will appear in February 2024. So welcome, Lizzie.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Today, perched cormorant, please do not preen my gaze from your wings. Let me stay a while. My second collection is titled Cormorant, and it has a series of poems about my favourite bird, and I'll be reading a few of those today. And I'm also going to be reading from In Her Shambles, which is my debut. This first poem is the only longer poem I'll be reading, and it's about my dad receiving his dementia diagnosis just as COVID struck, dementia with Lewy bodies, when I was also pregnant with my second child, Danny. So the poem deals with the diagnosis and my fear of my newborn catching COVID. I'm pregnant in the poem, and then the poem explores having a newborn, and the you is Danny. Sonnets of Separation. 1. We were already between worlds. Dementia, that word pervading the weak Cannock Brook breached. Fogged water claiming our wood. It's leached, Dad said, from the coal seam. There's grey clay. We looked for brown trout bellying sandbars, shifting between light and shade. Moments settling, only to be shattered by the brook's relentless replenishment. I asked, "How you doing, Dad?" "Oh, you know, chasing thin air." Already a borderland. Mum joking, "We've got Lewy bodies dancing round the room, getting blamed for everything." You in me, stirring against another threshold. 2. You in me, stirring against another threshold, soon to break into our day's tight circuit. Muted street, empty car park, the cradles of our cracked, anti-backed hands. No parade, no displaying you in North Street cafes, no strangers laying praise on your new skin. Grandparents, uncles, aunts, adoration, cordoned from 2-metre sanctuaries. My warning glare, willing air to defend us. For Sue, bringing smiles, best wishes too near. Bob approaching the front wall of his drive with a joke about leper colonies. To feel the hard border of my fear. Your cries reeling across crowdless stadium, parked up street. 3. Your cries reel across crowdless stadium, parked up street. Grandparents digital, Forest of Dean faltering on screen. Your nana hoping spring, summer's flow will reach, hovering her phone over their garden centre. Behind the closed sign, peonies unwrap themselves. Salvia's blue profusions, lily of the valley, silver-edged iris sibirica, azaleas, split to pixels by a brittle Wi-Fi signal. season of stammered translations, internet traffic, marooned bodies reaching with radio waves, a surge of longing, interrupting symphonies of green, curving paths, glide of stem to sepal, the brook's relentless rush. 4. Glide of stem to sepal, the brook's relentless rush. We will wade again, chew a wild mint leaf, watch for trout in the stirred sand, lift echinacea, eryngium for their cupped dusk. There will be tides of touch when we breach these lockdown dams. 2 metres, 20 motorway miles, the white buffeted bridge to your granddad finally holding you. Growing up in a garden. Growing up in a garden centre in the Forest of Dean involved many encounters with wildlife, and a lot of these encounters were my father rescuing different animals. And this is a sort of homage to that. Rescues. Fallow doe caught in the boundary fence. Fetlock trapped in the top straining wires. Wind plucking her fur as my father squeezed wire cutters until they bit, freed her to bolt, streak into bracken. Barely their weight of the pipistrelle he scooped from the outdoor loo, as if a bit of night had torn away and wafted through. Their roost in the unused loft, tucking through the wrong hole. Shadows in ceiling corners. Black fruits he gently unpeeled to show us wings laced with limb. House martin chicks fledging early from the mud bowl of the nest. Spit wattled to rafter and wall, too keen to muscle for flight. Picked from gaps in stacked compost pallets. Soft tickle on your palm, the texture of breath. Heartbeats batting his hand. There's nothing there, no weight in them, same with anything that flies. His gloved hands click-locking a stepladder, placing them back in the wrong nest, hoping they'd be adopted. Birds, shrews, mice, pried from the white portcullis of the cat's teeth. Tiny bump of their pulse on his fingertips, thimble hearts pumping final millilitres of blood. Black bathtub spiders, peeping legs through gaps in the tunnel of his thick tan fingers. A fractured buzzard by Cannock Brook, cowled in a bath towel. His 3 daughters, calling to him from their cities, shrill cry of the phone, his voice still brummy soft, saving us each time. Waiting for the Cormorant, Cannock Ponds 2019. We skim the southern lake, deck chairs on the verge of the gravel road, a portable TV, picnic site rootled by boar, queue at the Green Tomato coffee hut. Through the kissing gate into the hush of the northern lake. He is on a jetty, waiting for the cormorant. We tell him its roost is the southern lake, the same crooked stick over the water, but he's staying put. You could be here for hours, we've never seen it here, we say. Road barely heard up a high bank, rugged with ferns, rocks, birch. Lakeside oaks leaning and fallen. Drone of the stoneworks from the far bank. That evening, I hear his reasons. I want it framed by quiet, half-sunk boughs, reed beds, the hum that reassures we're far from road and drill, a row of sleeping mallards. I've lost one of my post-its, so that's going to be interesting in a moment. Where are we? Okay. Oh no, we're okay. As its title suggests, the collection, my debut collection, presents a range of female perspectives, some of them well known. And the following is a poem about Elizabeth Siddal, the wife of Dante Gabriele Rossetti. When she died, as a romantic gesture, he buried a book of poems in her hair. And many of them were inspired by her. And 7 years later, as the story goes, realising they were his best work, he had them exhumed so he could retrieve and reprint the book. So that was nice. So I thought, we're saying talking liberties, let's give these people a bit of a voice. And I wrote this poem, which also explores modern digital kinds of exhumation. And it's called Lizzie. I read of Dante Gabriele Rossetti tucking a book in Lizzie's hair, Highgate, plot 5779, stowing hours spent rhyming the planes of her face, wording her long neck, while she faded on laudanum in 14 Chatham Place. I understand burials, delete word files, type an email address in the Hotmail search box, click select all, delete, empty recycling bin, clear. After 7 years, he paid men in beer to prize the grave slab, spade glints knifing loam as they picked out his lyric to her lips, her auburn hair. I understand exhumations, recharge an old phone, slot in its SIM for text message streams. They plucked out his book with a Bible and a worm, leaves edged red, bound in calf skin, disinfectant reek when he unpeeled the rags. I open blank documents, select, copy, paste old words to clean screens. He chose a new typeset, edited his metaphors for her lips, filled wormholes with new words for her hair, tweaked his meter to quicken her pulse. I understand edits, delete, replace, retype, right-click for synonyms, select all, scroll for Times New Roman. He rewrote her reds, her seductions, shames, the flames in her hair, selected new words for medieval rooms, gleams of lattice, arras, burnt perfumes, parted damask. I spell check, save as, rename, print, close, shut down. I'm fascinated by Titus Andronicus, Shakespeare's play, where revenge is enacted on the body, and the most vicious sort of attack is the attack on his daughter Lavinia. In my opinion, it's the most vicious. She's raped and mutilated with her hands cut off and her tongue cut out, so she can't identify her attackers. And I've got a few poems about Lavinia on the go. It's always fascinated me, that figure. And this poem imagines Lavinia using a different sort of language, and it begins with a quotation from the play from her uncle Marcus, who, do people know the play? He recites this sort of wonderful lyric, which is often really heavily criticised, because he's found the mutilated body of his niece. She's sort of standing there, and he does this beautiful lyric, and people say, oh, why would he do that? But I love it. I think it's gorgeous. Lavinia writes, sorrow concealed like an oven stopped, doth burn the heart to cinders where it is. Marcus, Titus Andronicus. I dipped a finger in my mouth, strummed, then picked the stitches in the root of my stolen tongue. I tipped my head over paper, let my words pump, breach the dam, fill fibres, glut pores. The page can't hold them anymore. I write bright, long sentences over chairs, walls, floors. I sign the carpet. It is cleaned. I write bright, long sentences over chairs, walls, floors. They sew me up again, offer a fountain pen. I refuse ink, tear their neat stitcheries. I sign the carpet. It is cleaned. I watch pink words sucked by the plug hole. I refuse ink. The carpet stores a stain. I watch the plug hole suck pink water. I am offered a loom. A needle is tucked between my teeth. I am told to weave a new pattern through the weft. I am offered a loom, a needle. I refuse thread, spit the needle. It falls to the carpet with a red word. I watch the word creep through the weave. I tear more, free more, until I am fluent. Just a couple more, and this is the first time I've read the next one. So this poem is interspersed with voices from newspaper and radio reports about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And it was one of those days when we were all, I'm sure we were all completely stricken with what we were hearing. And I was going into the garden to get some paint, and I heard my neighbours. And what I needed was a chat with my neighbours, just to take my mind off it. And I'm sure we've all felt that as we've heard what's happening over there. So this poem is called Alley Gate. Carrying paint cans to the alley gate, I hear my neighbours on the other side. I almost decide to leave it, but Mariupol, the girl on Radio 4, they say, "Here, have a little food, a little water." I wiggle the bolt until it gives, ease shoulders through the frame, step over a puddle of something clay-like, silvered, left by the builders. One bare arm brushing the side of the garage, the other free to run fingers along the breeze-block wall between mine and Siobhan's, skin bristling in the breath of her garden. "But you must clean this square. It is like work duty." They are talking over the low fence about Liz's Zoom choir. I ask, "Mind if I join?" Speaking of her parents, they were Ukrainian right to the end. Need to praise Siobhan's new rhododendron. She says it is September song. Halina, in the Guardian article, "When will the war end?" Need to praise the apple in blossom, slate pond, solar-powered fountain. When the tulips bloom, that's when the war will end. Lizzie's long bed of orange dahlias, blue delphiniums. One more, yeah. Tiny one to finish. No one on the picnic site. Shuttered coffee hut. Quiet of the northern lake. Pipped by the calls of coots. Ripped by the hilarity of mallards. Resealing over the slow steps of the lone cormorant. Hopping onto the jetty. Splatting one black foot in front of the other. Thank you, everyone.
Several poems use the image of the stitching, and And I think that metaphor of stitching, and those poems are so beautifully stitched together, absolutely fantastic. You feel as though you want to get up close to them again and feel them, and they're in the book, or some of them are. Okay, Tom Sastry's poems have appeared in The Guardian and the Poetry Review and 100 other literary journals of quality across the UK and further afield. He's been commended in the Forward Prize, and his debut collection, A Man's House Catches Fire, was shortlisted for the Seamus Heaney First Collection Prize. That really makes me sick. Seamus Heaney, my favourite poet of all time, and you grabbed the prize. Fantastic achievement, and a fantastic book, actually, and the acclaim that book was received. Then I remember having some email correspondence, and in no time at all, out comes a second collection. Takes me 7 years to write a second collection. His pamphlet Complicity was a Poetry School Book of the Year, Poetry Book Society Pamphlet Choice. The second collection, You Have No Normal Country to Return To. Does that title ring a bell? You Have No Normal Country to Return To. Was published in April this year. Surely that's how we all feel at this moment. As a review in London Grip said, Tom Sastry does not come across as a particularly angry young man when one meets him. But in his collection, an underlying anger, indeed at times a rage, emerges, along with numerous hints as to the cause of this anger. He doesn't look angry. Let's find out, shall we? Thank you, Tom Sastry.
The problem with anger is that poems don't always come out the way you intend. So this first poem started out, my intent was to write a rather short-tempered poem. It's about the story of Queen Victoria lobbying to be declared Empress of India. And the story, the rather picturesque story that historians like to tell, is that after the death of her husband, she spent a long time mourning, and after a while people started complaining that she wasn't doing enough queening. And the solution that her ministers came up with was that she should make more public appearances, open a few more supermarkets, that sort of thing. And the solution that she came up with was that if her subjects had the glory, reflected glory of being reigned over by an empress rather than a mere queen, they'd feel better about the whole thing. And I thought this was ridiculously presumptuous, especially since I never even visited India. So I was going to write a rather snippy poem about this, but then instead I wrote a poem about grief without meaning to, and this is the poem. It's called Queen Victoria Demands to be Made Empress of India. Oh, by the way, in this poem I am going to take on the persona of Queen Victoria. So this is me as Judi Dench as Queen Victoria in a sweaty t-shirt in a hot room above a library in Clifton. So good luck to you all. The fingers of the men of reason scratch at their tufts as they speak. When it is decent, I halt them. They retreat in small steps like careful elephants and send for younger men who pour youth and better smiles into the same advice. Show yourself, they say. If not an empress, which curiosity will I be? The most reclusive widow? They have been warned. Their faces bounce back, but fear makes them stupid. For their sake, I am stupid too, until I say they should leave, so at least one wish can be satisfied. My agitation troubles them. They propose medicine, windows. It would help if I could ride somewhere impossible, from peak to peak, across the sea. Each day, before I want him, I want the light as it was. Later, I crave small rooms, a world I can bear. next one also, I don't know why I'm telling the stories of how these poems got written, because it's completely irrelevant, usually. But this one started just around the corner. You know that bit by the suspension bridge where there's that little, it's not really a viewing platform, there's a little platform, you look up at the bridge. And there was what I think was a coach party that had come up. You know, those dreadful holidays where people get driven to a place, dispatched, turfed out of a coach to look at it and then back on the coach. So instead of being a good part of a good day, they think they've come to see as just this weird interruption in a day of being on a coach. Apologies to those who love coach tours. I find this a very weird way of spending your time. And so they stood there looking at this bridge that we all know, and they kind of like nodded at each other. Yes, we've seen it now. Yes, it's quite impressive. Okay. And they just turned back and went back towards their coach. And I thought, and the first phrase I noted down in my notebook was dull pretense of wonder, which appears in the poem. And then I set the same story on the moon, but again, it turned into a poem about two people in a rather difficult situation and wasn't about tourism at all. But then again, the poem is called The Sea of Tranquility. I don't need a book, hopefully. I didn't know what to get the old man, so I took him to the moon. He stood, holding up the line at the top of the steps, looked out and said, "There's nothing there," as if he was speaking of some other place he had visited before. I said, "Dad, we're here now." He pressed his fingerprints onto the bulb of my shoulder, let me help him down the steps, the needs of his body hidden in his suit. He was right. The moon was empty. We scratched at the emptiness with our dull pretense of wonder, but when finally the earth rose without us, the loneliness was perfect. I could not remember why back home it feels so angry. That moment of silence was my gift to him. When he said, "Don't speak," he snatched it from me and presented it to himself. In spite of this, I allowed the magic in. I forgot about myself until we were back, standing on the step, turning the key on the dead air we had left, and my own absence hit me again, like a great wave, like a decade all at once, like a wall over and over. There are fashions in poetry. A few years ago, everyone was writing poems about bees, and now Lizzie's done it. I'm going to do it. There are poems where we divide them up into sections. We go 1, da da da, 2. So this is. I'm going to do the same thing here. This is a poem, series of riffs around the idea of people in power telling us their stories and trying to convince them that those are actually our stories. And it starts where the last one left off, with tourists on the moon, and it goes like this. This is our story. 1. The moon tour always arrives in time to watch the earth rise and leaves before it's sunk in space. How much loss can a people face? There are no inwardly unremarkable lives. 2, the future is your own country, stripped of illusion, the cold average of human fate, an unscripted hail of events. What will your country do to make it make sense? 3, if a Home Secretary signs my exile, and I'm not told, where in that moment am I really from? Meanwhile, should I take more care or be already what I might become? 4, your colleague says, eat clean, stay thin. Other people's bets can kill. This time it's mild, they say again. To school a child, you go all in, they rake your steak, lungs, kidneys, brain. 5, the dead refuse their names, sick of glory. Our leaders aren't impressed. Arrest a number in a ghostly raid. Have the rest displayed in the shadow of their phrase. This is our story. I did that poem once at a very small C conservative night, and then someone said from the audience, you don't normally get heckled by audiences that are largely over 60, but I got heckled. It was, are you going to rap now? I'm not going to rap now. I love a good heckle. I think it's an art. The next poem is one which, the UK is recently famous for leaving the EU, but we've also joined a number of new international groupings that have great significance. One of those is social media, and the other is the apocalypse. We're a key member of the apocalypse, and both of those are referenced in the next poem, which is called Searching for the Last Word. I think I know this one by heart, so I'm sorry. I'm phoning it in tonight, I do apologise. Searching for the Last Word. No one will tell you becoming themselves was easy. We have all escaped from silence to tell the world what silence is like. We say other people's voices are silencers because we want them to shut up. We're testing our rage to see what it does. The world shows off its new wounds. Once in a while we stop to watch them bleed. Each silent shooter drops their weapon, which falls silently to the floor. We melt into the crowd, which is to say, into ourselves, still insisting we were bleeding first. Mostly, I read about this on my phone. I rarely watch TV, and when I do, I am shocked how real it feels with sound. Last night, a meteorite fell 11 time zones from here. One of the continents has gone, and we will not see the sun again. Everyone is shopping. You can see queues outside petrol stations on every channel. The silent people are visibly upset. In a few months, they will be dead. Everything on the screen will be archaeology. Meanwhile, let's drink. Outside, the last safe rain falls on the still green earth. The reporter speaks of the enormity of the disaster for which there are no words. He fears silence more than anything. The silence he fears most is his own. Watching him, I remember the times I ran my mouth because I knew there was only one thing I needed to say, so it seemed fair to carry on until it was said. I never found out what that thing was. I guess it was probably something ordinary about love. I'm going to do one more long one, and then it'll be one or two short ones, depending on how much time I've got left. This poem, it's another one that started off in an odd place. I was thinking about COVID, and I was thinking about the way that, because there is so much social pressure to pretend that it's over and almost never happened, there's been this mass bereavement event and people don't feel entirely free to talk about it. And I thought about how that gives rise to all kinds of strange expressions, and one of those, obviously historically, that we know about is the ghost story. And so I was thinking about ghost stories, and I wrote this poem. And that started with the title, really. The title is Ghosts Are Made of Grief. Why would they be kind? 1. You take yourself to the beach because why not? It's been a long time without better reasons. And there she is, wading backwards out of the sea. At first, her skin looks polished, unreal. She reverses into the clothes and the smile she left behind, asks after the ice cream you never offered. A boy is still screaming in delighted outrage at the naked lady. His voice sticks in your head. Otherwise you would not dare remember picking lines of kelp from her hair. It can't be 5 years, she says. Nothing has changed. Your hair is grey, but that's not important. Her love for you is what it was, something you don't understand. You're the one with a new smile that covers everything, the length of the pause, its weight, and your rage, that dog you keep close, too. She doesn't follow the news, but you read how it's the same everywhere. The dead returning, unbothered, telling us we were never so serious, eye-rolling our darkness. When we complain, the still bereaved curse our luck, our ingratitude. They rise early, place fresh laundered clothes on the sand, keep vigil, brows knotted by the hard white sun. Waves of bodies roll in from the deep, retreating into life. The watchers lean further into the glare, expecting the one they'll forgive for laughing off a long absence, any moment now. 3. She lets you out a mile from the beach so she can disappear. Who are you? She asked as you leaped through your hanging clothes. I'm your husband, you answered. This then, she said, holding up the wedding shirt whose cuffs now flap like starched gulls unfastened at your wrist. It's fitting. It's too small, and you're a clown, darkening with sweat, walking bow-legged as your feet flinch in the hard shoes. Small birds of mirth flitter in your wake, shutters click. Curiosity follows you onto the sand where you shake off the tailcoat, the cravat, the prison of perfect memory, everything but the plain prose of your nakedness. Then you walk out into the Flint Sea, following the ebb tide until you're out past the headland and could be anywhere, anyone new. Okay, I'm going to finish with this one. It's the only one that comes from this book, which is a lovely cover. You'll work out what the title is, I think, at the end of this, so I won't bother introducing it any further. It goes like this. This is actually a better poem to read in a tiered theatre where everyone could see that my hair is thinning around here, whereas at the moment, probably from the front, I look to have a lustrous comb over, which I'm sure some of the gentlemen towards the back will envy, but that's, don't feel too bad about it. It's not as good as it looks. Here we go. My consolation for baldness will be a hat. Something old-fashioned and well-worn. I will lift it for anyone worth trusting with a flash of naked egg. I will look beyond myself into the future, guided by the line of my new brim, until my thought cracks into a henge of orphaned teeth, creases hatching on my skin. I want that old age. How I want it. Now I am 44 no longer, and we are enemies of the people, saboteurs who need crushing, and my son still young enough to reach for my hand as we cross the street. What I demand of life is that it go on, until I am ready to hold that hat to the slosh of my belly in memory of myself, tilt my head back, bathing my face in the first warm lull of the morning, to say that one thing I will finally know I was put here to say. Thank you.
I will go boldly into that good night. Thank you, Tom. If you could give me a year's workshops in learning poems off by heart, please, I'd appreciate it. Fantastic. New Orleans has got its Dr. John. Manchester has got its Dr. John Cooper Clarke. Bristol has got its Dr. Edson Burton. It's a writer, academic, curator, you name it. He's been a consultant and coordinator for numerous history projects in Bristol, and one of the outstanding cultural experiences for me in the last few years was a magnificent collaboration with Bristol Old Vic and Bristol Beacon, or the Colston Hall as it was then, Bristol Beacon, to curate speeches by the African-American abolitionist Frederick Douglass, and Edson wrote some new material as well as that, and it started in St Paul's and worked its way through the streets of Bristol. An amazing visionary piece which reminded us about Frederick Douglass, 1860s, coming back, coming to Britain to rouse the abolitionist cause. And he actually came to Clifton, to the Bristol and Clifton Women's Abolitionist Society, and spoke to them. But what I'm going to particularly mention, amongst his book, Seasoned, has been highly acclaimed. He's an expert on the transatlantic slave trade, race and representation, but particularly his band, his six-piece band called Private Joys, describes itself as badass music for the body, soul and mind. And that's what Edson's going to give you. Edson Burton. No high expectations, Edson.
I did not see that coming at all. Crikey, the band is a new venture. It's the sort of thing that I inflicted singing on my kids for so long that I decided to inflict it on the rest of the world. I guess I've been thinking about authenticity a lot, and is there such a thing? I don't know what, there's some laughter going on in the back before we even started, it's cracking. And I guess, with Matt Hancock in the Jungle, commiserations to us, I think. It's made me think, when I thought about it today, I thought maybe actually it's a nice time to reshare some poems I wrote about beingness. And I guess I spend a lot of time in different spaces, thank you, Bob, navigating really different worlds, and in that process often wonder who I am. Anyway, enough of the explanations. Tabula rasa. I grew a river of dreads, gave up bacon and eggs, ate only ital veg, when you said after our trip to New Grill that Rasta is so sexy. I squeezed into leather lycra PVC, pierced my extremities, sang "Sex Me" at the local karaoke, championed public nudity when you said our love life should be a little bit more freaky. I became the breeze, smoking reefers taller than redwood trees, giggled at the moon on mushrooms, danced for 3 days on ease, spoke to Bugs Bunny tripping on LSD when you said we should transcend reality. I ate and slept the Oxford Dictionary, exchanged Ras and Clark for By Jove and Golly, deleted Street for City Friends, binned Buju for Bach and Mozart when you said we should invest in upward mobility. I renounced all earthly pleasures, binned my collection of blue movies, berated bleary-eyed backsliders with tales of brimstone and fire when you said we should be ready for Armageddon. I became nauseous, circling between an army of alter egos, losing track of my identities. And then you left, saying you wanted a man not like me, a man who knew who he wanted to be. It's not necessarily autobiographical. You must remember this. A kiss is just a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental rules apply as time goes by. Fed on the milk's fame, Sam is a pipe to be played under the spotlight. Sam bursts into a thundering baritone, the velvet tones of Nat King Cole, a princely falsetto under the spotlight. He smiles, El Cap Calloway smiles, jitterbugs and jives and tic-tac-scats to the beat of a buried drum. Sam slides like JB, blaspheming against gravity. Tic-tac-scats to the beat of a buried drum, blaspheming against gravity, spins, locks, moonwalks, rolls, rocks and rocks under the spotlight. Sam can punch, kick, leap, pickle, flip back and flip into legend under the spotlight. Sam is oozing like Ali against Foreman, longing for the corner beyond, but fears death by anonymity, circumscribed under the spotlight. Sam beholds his plight. The spotlight is an evil eye, a torturer's lamp to kill by. He hones his mind and fist into weapons of resistance. But even that is reduced to TV ratings under the spotlight. Now locked in opal struggle, the spotlight reveals its true guise. Master's whip, wicked hands, an incubus slurping up his soul, shouting, "Dance, boy! Sing, boy! Cry, boy! Laugh, boy! Love, boy! Cry!" Sam dives into darkness. Applause replaced by a hiss and boos and a rainfall of rotting vegetables. But in that dark, Sam can shadowbox and boogie, never to have to play it again. You must remember this. A kiss is just a sigh is just a sigh. Fundamental rules apply as time goes by. Thank you. Poor love. I don't know. Am I lucky in love? I don't know. Love for me is always rock and roll. It was like a simple relationship, but I don't know. Anyway, 2 poems on love. Stationed here, a sun pales into peach, tinging ribbon clouds in slow retreat. As deafening day turns into evening murmur, we surrender to suspended moment. Your crown spread upon the curls of my chest, my arms circle and cup your full breast. Our tip and tongue paint new worlds from scars and lines kept from light. The musk of us a heady magic stilling time. We sink as if into a sweet world's end. Drowsed, we rouse as one wet pressed flesh. The redeemed firstborn of a new Genesis. He comes, stripping muscled oak to withered limb, pulp sweet earth to putrid bush, choked sky in wolfskin. His breath, a blasting howl, pounds a last call upon our door, words limp into white noise. A shriveled coupling, your parting offer, eaten without appetite. No kiss nor incantation can turn this tide, a pact made before you and I, you to become his winter concubine. You descend, brilliant hazel eyes grow dim, slide beneath a duvet pall. Our bed a cotton grave. I keep vigil, waiting signs of your return. I guess shared one new poem, or not really a new poem, but an old poem. There's those poems in the drawer that you never quite finish, or you've almost forgotten about. So anyway, this one is about my first kiss. Yeah, thanks, Dad. Yeah, no, it wasn't Dad. Oh gosh, no, sorry, that's more confession than. Yeah, I mean that's for some other kind of show, Oprah. But no. I mean, actually, this is pretty weird. My dad encouraged me to get a first kiss from a friend of his, a club that you would never go to if you were actually legal and able to go to clubs. Complicated. Let's just say she was setting me on my way, so the idea was. God. Tom, you said don't explain poems? Yeah, thank you. I need to listen to you in the future. Blue light spinning lights, red lips to red stripe, moist demand invite. Tentacular tongues wrap not strike, sharing sour, puke-washed vodka coke, mint disguise, pound saver cologne, fresh peroxide. This body mapped known, legend in male circles, gives license to grapple, press, maul, a grotesque contest. Sudden hiatus, whiff of shared sentiment, like the trace of sweetness in stale biscuits. Wasted space, pity bludgeoned, burlesque returns. She purrs, tonight I'll make you a man. Speaking of authenticity, I guess the pandemic sort of throws you into thinking about who you are, the things you haven't had time to mourn and reflect on. And I did some of that. And also it was a great time, ironically, for theatre writers who write poetry, because there was no theatre to write. So I had to write poetry, which was great. But not great for my acting friends, sorry guys. Friday is the cruelest of the 7. Crossing the tape, there is no podium. Flash, clap, cheer, and engraved medal to sit upon your pride-pulsing chest. Claire Balding is not waiting, bright-eyed begging for a 2-minute interview as you swagger towards sequestered family, friends, bubbly shower ready. Friday evenings bring no sweetener for shutting out the screaming Scotch, denying absent-minded swigs of Captain Morgan just once in a daytime. G&T for leaving the absinthe untouched, and I will not be canonized for keeping clear of Tinder, YouPorn, and Netflix, for scavenging meaning in routines, feigning good cheer when cold grey. So I raise a middle finger to this hijacked Friday, unlock the cabinet, drink 1, 2, too many, turn up the bass, grieve quietly for skin, dancing, feet, glitter, and wings. So this poem is about, so when my father died, he had a spell in hospital, and I was living in Bristol, and he was living in Bedford. So it meant travelling this awful journey of not knowing he was in an induced coma. So I had no idea during this journey whether I would find him alive or not. This poem is partly about that journey. If anyone here is a Marvel Universe fan, you'll know that Magneto is the character who has the ability to pull, extract, bend metal. Okay, explanation's over. Outside, bullet-fast blurs of colour, yet the Great Western is a hatchling stirring slowly, curiously from a cracked shell. Balled up in my seat, I streak ahead, dart holiday canter, bodies in St. Pancras, curse Luton, signal stops, guards. I tear open my chest to find a super layer beneath, burst through steel, fly above sharp angle quilt field, a light sprinting through shadowy tunnels, inhale hospital white coats and wringing hands. I am too late? Passing Reading, I will myself Magneto, bend back, bend track, faster, urge face opposite to open and inquire, beg it to remain shut, surging hunger for skin, thighs, white noise fucks. Why? Wipe eyes, surprise they are dry, sudden hate of England. Hurtle back, missed calls, distracted, clock watching, promises we will touch souls like old times one day, soon. You silently pleading through the shell pressed to my ear. Guilt like a grim reaper sits, cuts, cuts, and cuts. St Pancras, Bedford, Blackout, Tannoy, pools of light. Somehow I arrive, Commander B, father, shrunken upon the white bed. We follow the green line for signs. The push and release of mechanical air does not abate. The last hours of ritual waiting return in this time, where breath is everywhere threatened. Too late for words, in time to witness. The reaper returns, sits silently. I ask, did he know? Did I ever tell him? Thank you. Time for one more? Okay. You never know with a reading what's going to happen. I found myself reading sometimes poems which I thought I'd weep at and dried-eyed, and then others take me by surprise. This is one of those on the cusp moments. What is Jamaica to me? I went on holiday to Jamaica and I thought I'd come up with a collection of poems, and I found it such an experience. It's an island, I guess, in some ways, the first global island, as every waif and stray of empires, kingdoms, and persecuted people, and pirates, and slaves, and all kinds of folk ended up there. And many of us think of Jamaica as African Caribbean, and it is, and it's also much more, and it's also very mixed, which left me with a headache, because I don't know what to write about this place. What is Jamaica to me? My father's isle in the sun, home of bird and cane cutter's song, land of peace and love and M16s at every turn, of Rasta utopias and urban hells, of homes made and undone by the flight of daughters and sons. Land where playboy ostentation mocks desperate aspiration. Land of endless ease and restless hustle, of shebeens and bacchanals by the sea. A perfect mission field, an epitome of Victorian hypocrisy. Land of church bells and Comina drum, of a million Romeos and dread-locked gigolos. Of child and mothers and infant men. Land of peasant dignity and rural poverty. A melting pot, a nation fragmented. Land of microchip, yet where spirits dwell in the green glow of fireflies. Well from which I draw, all this and more is Jamaica to me. Thank you.
Hello, welcome back everybody. Hello. Good to see you having your drinks, and hope you bought lots of drinks as well. So, during one of our workshops, we decided to get our members to bring a piece of creative artwork that they've done themselves. So it could have been anything, from sewing to painting to absolutely anything. And one of our ladies brought what she called a Sastry scarf. And it's a scarf that's been created by a group of people that get together and just enjoy the art of it and created something beautiful. So I'm going to read to you a poem that I was inspired by this. A lesson in Sastry weaving. Gathered together, we are united in freestyle, threading russet, indigo, and violet yarns. Our movements are spontaneous and yet deliberate. Side by side, weaving laughter into the space, through the softness of silk, cotton, jute, and stone walls. There are no mistakes, no rules. We explore. Our expression is free. Each single strand is fused, mixed, and blended in unison. Distinct in technique, we disregard restraint. row by row, fabricating intentionally flawed cloth, stitching a unique journey, a nomadic needle meandering, ambling to many points of view, a collective communal shawl, looming spectacularly from shackled minds, growing in solidarity, we gently unfurl the exploration of our true selves. And now I'm happy to welcome Stephen Lightbrown onto the stage. Stephen is Blackburn-born, Bristol-based poet and disability rights champion. Stephen was paralysed by an accident in 1996 when he was 16 and uses his poems to give voice to his disability. He's read at events and festivals across the UK, such as Shambhala, WOMAD, Verve Poetry Festival and Lyra Bristol Poetry Festival, as well as in San Antonio in Texas. He performed his one-man show, A Life with Pip, in Coventry last August, and he's had 2 poetry collections, Only Air and The Last Custodian, published by Burning Eye. Stephen is a qualified yoga teacher who teaches yoga for every body type to enable you to feel empowered by what your body is capable of. So, welcome, Stephen.
Hi everyone, thanks for the yoga plug, that was very good. I'm teaching on a yoga retreat tomorrow, so there's something else to do. Yeah, it's really nice to be here, and I have a 1-year-old who celebrated his first birthday last week, and this is only the 3rd poetry reading I've done this year because I don't get sleep anymore. So it's apologies if my mum's here. I've told her to throw something at me. She looks like I'm drifting off. Yeah, I'm going to read poems from The Last Custodian, which is my book which came out last year, and yeah, I really enjoyed writing this. It's a kind of novella in poetry form, which I've stolen from Tom, who actually read the book and said that to me. So thanks for the description. But it's both Tom and Edson have mentioned the apocalypse, and this is about the apocalypse. So this imagines a world where the last survivor on Earth is a wheelchair user, and he wakes one day and realises and finds that everyone he knows and everyone that he loved and everyone out of his window has died, and that the Earth has been covered in this strange red dust. He doesn't know at that point that everyone has died. It's just the people in his house and the people in the street. And he starts in Bristol, and he sets off to explore the country to find what's left and if there are actually any survivors. I don't normally say this, but it's quite exciting. I've just received it's been optioned for a scriptwriter who's writing a script to try and commission it for a TV programme. I've just received the script for the first episode, which is very interesting, seeing how somebody else has taken this book and interpreted it. But I'm going to read poems from this. I'll not do anything in between because it's linear form, so not to presume that you may want to clap after each poem, but you can just save it till the end and it'll work better as we read through each poem. And the main character is called Luke, so when I reference Luke, that's who I'm talking about. And these poems are written in diary form over the course of a year, and each one is a letter to members of his family who he now carries around in his bag in the form of stones with their initials on in his rucksack. Day 1, Bristol. I drink the juice from the tin peaches, gulp down survivor syndrome, ignore the urge to add cream and ladyfingers. Thinking of dessert doesn't seem right when I can't smile at you across our table raised on 4 yoga blocks. A small ooze of sugar water escapes from the tin and settles in my beard. I leave it, fantasise about an exhausted bee replenishing itself on my chin. I wipe the sticky residue away with a grubby hand. I'm so bereft of contact that the thought of a bee coming for pleasure, then leaving to return to the hive revitalised, is simply too much. Day 14, Bristol. I'm sorry you're all dead. At last, I can leave the house without being sparked by jealousy. I would see you all. Jog to work, walk barefoot along a beach, collecting girlfriends, have sex in a disabled toilet, ride 2 horses bareback through Wilco, chase a lion scrapping with another lion, use a clutch in a 1984 Mercedes convertible, save a kite from a rainbow. It is scary how free I feel to not look at your potential, wish I could be the life that you took for granted. Like breathing. I would see you walk from an argument into an embrace. Where's your air now? I want to say, I miss you, all the things we could have shared. I would pick our scab and you would feel it bleed. Day 55, Torquay. You know, the first thing I notice is the smell. Rancid horse's stable. It lingers like the 3 a.m. guest at an old party. I find her in the front room with the armchairs. She could have been 40, her perfume despair, I guess a week, if not longer. Is that you, John? Her words catch in a riptide looking for the shore. I keep my eyes open for signs. 2 rucksacks, 1 rolled out mattress, a book, Don Quixote. Her voice in the cushions, swollen, bandaged, clearly a ruin. Did you find him, John? That man in the wheelchair? John, the man I've just killed. I hold back the urge to gag, to cry, to leave. I move forwards towards her, place my hand on something I'm still trying to understand. Did Joe eat these points? So hopefully. Day 80, Dorchester. I cross Gray's Bridge near the Teddy Bear Museum, arrive into a Rothko exploration on canvas. The countryside behind me. This is nature unsettling. The sky is thriving, the dust orange in midday sun, where it lingers in shadows, a darker red. The lines have been erased, buildings are a blur, consumed by Technicolor. The depth of the street only revealed with every roll I make further into the painting. After the bridge, I fall into a palette of emotions. The dust paints the hairs on my arms orange, my trainers turn red, trousers, wheels, red. The orange of my t-shirt meets the red of my wasteland. I have been painted into today. I close my eyes. For once, it isn't black. Day 100, Portsmouth. There are things I thought I would miss but don't. Like the way I thought I'd be desperate to make love to my wife when I lost my legs, but all I wanted was to hold her and run my fingers over her like she was a blade of grass I didn't want to bend. The only difference between a creeping speedwell defiantly in a lawn and a hyacinth in a hand-painted vase is the care it was placed with. My urge to tend the weeds is strong. I want to tell them, wherever you are, you grow in all the right places. Day 140, Gatwick Airport. In lieu of a passport, I wave a used plaster at the check-in desk. I'm off to Wroclaw, I shout at a recycling bin. I carry a suitcase through security, hold my arms out for a cold feet pat down that never shows, my kills paraded in a clear bag. I breeze through duty free, I do not turn left. Good day to you, impossibly smooth flooring. I unhook the cart from the back of chair and push. Oh. I glide like a curling stone. Imagine a pleasant chap in black pants sweeping a path before me. The remains of weekend revellers cheer gate after gate. You know, an empty airport is a ridiculous place. As many toilets as planes on a runway. I take a pilot cap off a corpse. I'm the pilot now. Almost useful, potentially respectable. This is your captain speaking. We are beginning our descent, and I let that lie soar through Terminal 2. Day 146, Clackett Lane services on the M25. The frame of a wheelchair, if drawn in lines, looks like a section of a flight of stairs. I notice this now for the first time as I take the wheels off to clear them of memories. When assembled, the frame has two wheels at the back the size of dustbin lids, the ones without wheels, and two wheels at the front the size of the palms of my hands. The frame itself used to be a polished silver, now it's scratched, dull, held together with gaffer tape and hair ties. The chair has pushed past the remains of a country that only a year ago would have stood on 2 feet and thought I could not survive without help. How far would I have made it without this frame and these 4 wheels? Day 211, London. I started writing assistants on my shopping lists. There are words without lines through them. Cake, gingham curtains, pity. From before, when I would wheel through a door, I collected disappointment. My differences clearer than lifeboats at a rodeo. I recall their questions, not their faces. Do you need a hand with that? Yeah, I'll let you know. Now I see myself in the gradual revolutions of Fuseley pasta. I clear shelves, my hands reach to write messages and cards that no one will read. In these bemused aisles, I ask, can I be disabled if there's not actually anyone to compare me to? And I will read 2 more. Day 276, somewhere on the M20. Things I did not expect to see today. Number 1, a man. Well, to be precise, a naked man running with a pair of sandals threaded through a leather belt round his waist. He was on the other side of the central reservation in the outside lane, a few years short of 70. I twitch towards the knife gaffer-taped chair. He gets nearer, whistling a tune I can't quite make out. I think to myself, how are flashes still a thing? He sees me, and without missing a stride, he vaults the barrier between us, and I wince. That tune, louder, clearer. It's Aerosmith. I don't want to miss a thing. He comes to a standstill, everything static, well, almost. He looks like a grandfather clock with a pendulum cock. Tattooless, hairless, go to your side. Chatty, greetings to you. I mean no your harm. I'm just out for a run. Mate, you don't know the danger you are in. What from? Where to ask? Where to, I ask. No, just a run. I have to ask. Why no clothes? The serrated edges of the knife call to him. Only gaffer tape is saving him. Look around, my good friend. I am the least of your worries. And I'll finish with this one. Day 280, Canterbury. I remember calm and I stop. I roll you over the skin on my left shoulder, and you are there kneeling behind me on our bed. And I feel you push your fingers into the places I don't want to go. And I remember calm as the smell of cloves from cheap massage oil dripping onto the sheets. And I pilot you over tender fingerprints left on me, desperate to smooth out the octopus that has nestled on the seabed. And you would whisper, I carry the distance in the spool of my sockets, and calm is somewhere in the reel of tangled wire. I remember calm, as you would say, if I find myself somewhere I can't push from, then I should hold your touch and massage you deeper into the tissue and count off each mile to calm. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. To get to the end of that, find out the end of that poem novel, books are on sale. As are all the books from the poets today, and we're revelling in the range of voices and subject matter. And so I'm really pleased to introduce next Muneera Pilgrim, who's an international poet, cultural producer, writer, broadcaster, TEDx speaker. She co-founded the Muslim hip-hop and spoken word duo Poetic Pilgrimage, and runs workshops and finds alternative ways to tell stories and build communities and exchange ideas, which it ties in perfectly with our quest for truths and untruths. Muneera regularly contributes to BBC Two's Pause for Thought. Now, her first collection came out a year ago. That Day She'll Proclaim Her Chronicles. It was published by Burning Eye, and having spoken with Muneera, she hasn't properly had a chance to give it a launch yet. She hasn't had a launch event. So in a funny little way, if she'll allow us, maybe over the next 15 or 16 minutes, we could see this as a mini launch event for Muneera's debut collection. Muneera Pilgrim.
Good afternoon. I'm just waiting for the cake with my face on it and like some balloons to come down. It will feel like a real launch. My name is Muneera. I'm so excited to be here. I was saying to Caleb earlier on that like today feels like a bit of a clumsy day. I feel like I'm pushing people out of the way. I'm running late. I'm dropping things. And so please, if I fall over, just promise that you'll help me up, put me back on the chair. And yes, I'm going to read some poetry. Oh, my poetry is not about being clumsy, by the way. But I'm going to read some poetry today. My collection is called That Day She'll Proclaim Her Chronicles. It's got my big face on it. And That Day She'll Proclaim Her Chronicles is actually from a quote of Quran, which goes like this. It says, when the earth is shaken with its quake, and the earth brings out its load, and mankind, bewildered and baffled, will say, what has happened to her? That day she'll proclaim her chronicles, for her Lord have inspired it. And I just think, I work with a lot of young people, and I just think sometimes like people feel really nervous to just talk about what their story is, talk about what they're going through in life. And thinking about in this day and time where, you know, there's so many things that are potentially frightening, so many things that are potentially scary, it's probably the best time to speak our chronicles. So this book is sort of autobiographical, but it's also the stories of other people that I know, and I hope you enjoy. Are you feeling good? Okay, so the first poem is called Sweetback, and once upon a time when Sony Records didn't want to pay anyone, they made people feel really excited by doing things called street teams. And they was like, you can be a part of our street team. All you've got to do is go around your city and put up posters and stickers and hand out things for free. And I did all of that. And in return, they'll send me records on occasion. And one day they sent me a record by a group called Sweetback, and it really spoke to me. So the poem is about that. I open the 12-inch cardboard envelope the color of dirty sand. Pull out the white paper sleeve made to hug the black vinyl. Walk, disc bouncing between my upright palms. It hits the deck and spins. 33 RPM, ping grip suspended on the edge of this whirling black orb. No beginning nor end, slightly warped and spinning. I back away from the player, sink into the soft edges of my bed. The first note holds like it's gasping for breath. I am the center of the story. I don't know much about African-American matriarchs, about cooking grits or collard greens. I've never witnessed my grandma sitting on verandas singing God hymns while puffing a pipe, though I know that she did. Because I'm more second generation, Jamaican in Britain, Grand's house in Saturday soup, blue and white vans picking me up for Sunday school. Every cousin was a sound man and had a stack system in their room. I was more knockout ginger but home before 8. Defrost the chicken because mum is coming back late. But the word spoke to me. You will rise. And in that I feel the blood in my body stirring. A long list of nameless women unfurl inside the coat of my skin. And I realize that prayers do travel through vinyl. A song is a sanctuary filled with our fathers, our men's and our means. Notes can be mutiny, our Morant Bay rebellions. Lyrics are litany and our modern day psalms. Thank you. So my dad scares me. He scares many members of the family, apart from the youngest members. He sits on a sofa and he doesn't speak. He doesn't say anything apart from like hello and goodbye. I get like very nervous to tell him things, like if I've got to say, Dad, I'm traveling, because he used to, when I was young, if I would say I want to travel, he would be like, your love run up and down too much. So like the idea of saying to him, Dad, I want to go somewhere, or Dad, I don't know, it scares me. But my dad used to always say this saying, which seems to match the poem, and the saying is, wa guana air, na guana el, because the devil would not allow it. Essentially, what is happening in this household, it doesn't happen in hell because the devil won't have it in his house. But anyway, this poem is called To Skin a Cat. My mum talks about death like family members coming to visit. She wants the carpets cleaned and the walls in the corridor painted before they arrive. My father lets, if God spare me life, stalk sentences like a shadow or the dot beneath a bar. On top of my mother's coconut flesh color wardrobe, over the compartments with the church and wedding hats with the lace trims that look like cobwebs the way the dust clings, pushed right to the back is my mother's hospital grip. If you were to pull it down, dust it off, fiddle with the rusting latches, the top would flip back and you would see silk pajamas, night dresses, 4 slips and petticoats, a wash bag with an unused flannel, a pair of pink slippers with a bow. Look how prepared for death we are, how close to dying we are. As a kid, as I left the house, my mum would tell me to make sure I cream my legs and make sure I have clean pants in case I had to be rushed to hospital. Years later, I realized the world sees us as dirty. And maybe my mother thought, if some Vaseline or Pond's or Palmer shimmering on my legs will buy a shred of dignity, make the person handling my limp body think she is a child worth saving, a child that is loved. Sister Pfizer, she always dressed her little girls with gold. It said to the world that they come from a home. Our parents were always thinking of subtle ways to preserve our life, yet in the same breath being prepared to die. I brought you into this world and I will take you out, was used to scare us kids into submission. Rather you fear me than go outside and risk making mistakes that can end your life, like wrong place at the wrong time, right place at the wrong time, being black in your skin. We are preparing to die. I've known this since the day I was born, but to be murdered took me longer to understand. Murdered like Yvonne Ruddock, Sarah Reid, Shukri Abdi, different means, same death. Thank you. I forgot to tell you, I am my poetry is not very uplifting. Sometimes people, like, I go to Muslim, I'm a Muslim, so sometimes I perform in Muslim communities, and like, people are like, can you perform for Eid? I'm like, you want me to perform for Eid or to perform for your wedding? Are you sure about this? And then people perform and they're like, oh yeah, maybe we should have looked at your material, but that's fine, it's okay. We're friends here. Okay, this poem, I've never read it before, but I love it. So I'm going to read it because it's my lunch. Even though the cakes aren't here, but it's fine. Okay, cousins. A 3-seater sofa with 7 bodies who have at least one facial feature just like mine. Lips, eyes, or nose. Grazed leg bubblegum breath bodies. Siblings from my mother's womb. With them I sit learning lessons. Like the ones whose bra I inherited because overnight I went from flat-chested to emerging mounds. Where we could not afford a bag of chips, the ones who propositioned Mr. Lings and got us a portion of Crispies for just 25p. The ones who taught me the art of protesting to save the petrol station where we got a stash of wine guns. The ones who taught me that jam wasn't just for toast, but it also tasted great with fried egg and escabeche fish. Escabeche fish is this really pickly, like Jamaican dinner, but my cousin was like, oh no, you could just put jam on it, it's fine. And that's what we did. The ones who I roamed with for hours after school, a beating was a risk we were willing to take. This is a special dedication for the naughty ones who caused all the trouble but never got the blame. The ones who lassoed, I didn't bite, it wasn't my choice, but the ones who lassoed cats above their heads to demonstrate the speed of light. The one who sang songs like Gimme Panani because, you laughing. The one who sang songs like Gimme Panani, but we were too scared to ask what Panani is because the last time we asked about a song with strange words, we've got chopped in our head, and I won't say what it is here. This is especially for those who played knockout ginger in the thick molasses of night, sneaking through back doors of house parties and dead yards, dribbling onto the streets like ghosts. From the ones who cried when they got cussed to the one who muttered under their breath, "Fix up!" This is for my summer holiday cousins, the ones who live in different cities and it would take us a day or two to reacquaint. The Calypso queens, the carnival hot girls, the DJs and sound men, Pathfinder leaders, the ones who have now gone. To my cousins who were old since the day I was born. This is for the cousins who came from different countries, slept in our rooms, showed us the meaning of work, sending money back home, teaching me it is not only in the hearts of people with my facial features, but there is also a place that I might belong. Thank you. I'm going to do a few more. I won't take up too much of your time, but this poem is called The Women of My Family. The women of my family are graceful, insightful, wise, sensitive, independent, interdependent, and dependable. Depending on what's called for at any given time. They are giving, supportive women. Their words are more soothing than the most smoothest of soothsayers. They have marooned, cushioned lips, rounded hips, and a back so straight it leads up to heaven's gate. Mary Magdalene meets Nana the Maroon. The blue and white now eloping in the center of Khartoum. Joan of Arc, Sojourner Truth, Rabia El Adawiya, Zuleika, Makeda, Frida Kahlo, Nikki Giovanni, Fulan Devi, Hagar Min as-Sudan, wife of a prophet and mother of a nation. The women of my family contain them all. They are so gifted, so gifted it's almost mythic. At minimum, they are mystics, and I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it with my own eyes. Breathed it in like the kiss of life, the horizon after the night skies. They are the thread of white that separates the day from the night, the specks of black that are now fading from my grandmother's eyes. This seems to be the hukum or the wisdom of becoming wise, the hukum or the wisdom of leading a rich life in giving abundantly like a willow tree with endless amount of leaves. Not even autumn can shake you, like a stake firmly rooted in the earth, balancing all of God's creation. I bore witness to women who make something out of nothing, sense out of nonsense. I would tell you I've seen them battle demons, but you would swear that it's a lie. But what else? What else is the beating of drums at a kumana on the Jamaican moonlit skies? What is women lined up in church sanctuaries, speaking with the authority of God, healing the sick with their prayers, feeding the poor with their prayers, because they know the streets of England are not paved with gold. The stories that they were told that made them leave their homes were baseless, but these women, they are the gold that paved the streets. I've sat in circles with women drenched in something between sweat and tears, women of all years calling her name until thy kingdom come. Thy will be done here and now. We desire healing and you are the one who we believe in. And although we may call the divine by a different name, them telling me, showing me that she is one and that one has blessed me with my mum. So God bless the women who've raised me, because indeed they are gracious and gold. Thank you. This poem is called Divine Light, and you know, I was going to say, in the interest of time, you don't have to clap. It's fine. It's fine. I maybe can squeeze an extra poem in, so don't clap until the end. Okay, so we're trying with this one. Okay, so this poem is called Divine Light. And I'm going to read the poem. When those in ivory towers, safe from the threat of a system that sees them as zeros, cast judgments faster than tornadoes spin rooftops in the air, burrowed deep in the bellies of black boys everywhere, infernos ignite, crackle, and Grenfell like wildfires devouring captured land. When they regurgitate news of an unarmed man slain by police pistol, life force drained like muggy water in the bottom of a bath, and they don't even flinch because the images the news have quickly gathered confirms their suspicions. He probably deserved it. Black boys, with their internal organs in flames, breathe fire like purgatory. It's for our own good. We just don't know it. For they are the lighter fluid that keeps the earth turning, the redemption that keeps God from starting all over again. They see with such clarity that their ends are nothing but a surplus of greys and of browns, hutches for houses tucked in the parts of the city that no one wants to see. These hot-bellied black boys are the lights and the colours and the comfort, them and their kin. Without them, the borough is all weeds and no trees. So when these black boys breathe from the tops of their voices, like town criers in each corner of the city, I say, let them. Let them rise from the shattered glass of the shop windows laid bare on the floor as the sun prisons through them. When those in ivory towers, safe from the threat of a system that sees them as zeros, ask about broken glass, but not broken families, because they think that we have a propensity to be lifeless at the blast barrel end of the gun. I see you, my raging lantern brothers. I see you, and I promise you that I get it. Okay, so a dead yard. A dead yard is when someone passes away. In, I want to say Caribbean culture, but I know for sure in Jamaican culture, what used to happen is that we used to gather at that person's house for a minimum of 9 days, right? Going back to Jamaican culture, there will be a whole ceremony. On the 9th night, it was seen as the spirit going back to the earth, and there will be, I mentioned it, Edson, I heard you mention about a kumina as well. There will be a ceremony called the kumina, basically with all sorts of dancing. But in COVID, it was really difficult to do 9 nights, right? Because we had our bubbles. But it made me think about the importance of just like being able to hold on to our rituals and our celebrations. So this poem is called Dead Yard. Where there is death, there are people gathered for 9 nights. When the roll is called up yonder, is sung by the sisters and the brethren in the front room. Younger cousins sit on the stairs awaiting the perfect distraction. When the time is right, they will swarm the kitchen and procure as many chicken legs and cans of Fanta as their dressing gown pockets can carry. The women of the family are upstairs trying to coax the wailing widow out of bed. Elsewhere, a man shouts, "Ludo!" as he slams down his hand and pieces jump up from the board. And the other men around him, they groan. The back door is open, people are laughing, drinking, and recalling stories of when they were young. What a life in our England. A man cracks open a bottle of white rum and pours some out for those who have gone. In the kitchen, women scale fish. Another woman runs about with trays of food. Mutton and rice is everywhere. Everyone will have a plastic plate soon. Not very good for the environment, but hopefully they change, okay. In the back bedroom, older cousins play music and spill tea. They have a new cousin who is 13, and I'm sure that is not the last. The younger cousins cannot come in. Funny is called a dead yard, even when there is so much life. Thank you. Don't clap, don't, it's okay. We can save time. I'm gonna do just like 2.5 more poems, okay? So, let me see. I'm gonna do 2.5 poems, right? So I have facial hair, and I felt so insecure about this for like my whole life. And then I realized that all of the women in my family have facial hair. Anyway, an ode to my facial hair. For the hours spent as a child, sat on the bath, staring at my mother, learning the art of womanhood. To the pounds, the time spent chasing away the shadow above my lip, my chin, and the side of my face. for the burns and the sores left behind by Veet, which could not coax into submission the thick hair from my face. For the friend I lost, his aunt who was more like his mother, young and dumb, me, I mocked her for having stubble just like mine. For the peach fluff, the creams, the wax, the strips, the thread for threading, blades for dermablading, the cotton balls for the spots of blood, tweezers for the ingrown hairs when they need a tug, for the shadows that stalk my face that looked like my mother's and like my grandmother and probably her mother's too. Here's the skin, the body I'm in, and the hair that sprouts like roots. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to do 1.5 more poems, okay? So a bit of a trigger warning here. There is slight theme of like sexual assault. But this poem is called Dear Body. And I encourage all of you to just like love your body and the skin that you're in. And you may already do that, but just do it even more so. If you don't, then this is for you. Dear Body. Dear body, thick body, brown body, round, curved and clutch body, soft body. My body soaked in lavender with a fragrance somewhere between mangoes and vanilla body. Dear you. Stout like your grandma, curved like your mama, thick skin and supple heart, blemished skin and breaking heart. Sorry for the times that I've neglected you. Failed to shower you with gratitudes, because you are more than vessel, more like vital. Without you, this world is void and without form. No thought, no feeling, no functioning, no witnessing God wanting to be known. No stumbling over subhanallah when hearing it for the very first time. No bended knees, no fajr tears, no closed eyes when kissed on the neck, no faint breath when kissed on my back. Dear body, my carry me through hurt body, compartmentalized until I could deal with body, heal with body. I have neglected you, bullied you for being so fat, so dark, so light, so hair not long enough, hair too thick under my chin, breast too big, butt too small, feet too flat, shoulders too broad. How have you coped body? Not broke down body, even when you were pinned down and screamed out, and once again you were pinned out but learnt not to scream out, because last time there was nobody. Just somebody who wished to colonize you like a country rich in resources, mother tongue gone, and all that remains is corrupted languages that have taught us not to love our bodies. So it's no wonder that I've neglected you, at one point even loathed you, but now I need you to know that you are heavenly, the type of body that continents could be named after. Imagine, Muneera. Land of silk tongues and wild ravines, stretch marks carved in tummies and thighs, land bountiful and overflowing, house of hope, home of hearts, you are loved. Thick body, round, curved and clutch body, soft body, thank you for carrying me through. So here comes the half a poem. Edson was like, love, well, I don't really know. I'm going to say the same thing, love. Am I lucky? No, but it's fine, it's okay. Things will get better, right? So I'm after all of your sons and, just keep them away from me. Anyway, this poem is called To All the Men Who Use Why Are You Single as a chat-up line. They ask me why I'm single. I shy away from the truth. Spiritual women attract broken men, and like a nurse, I tend to them. It's not that I've never had a relationship, it's just there's a thin line between lover and healer. I am often both, and he is often neither. He is the one in need, and I mostly have the ability to rejuvenate when I deplete. They come to me wounded, and it would seem that my womb has a thing for making my heart their remedy. Them idling on sacred ground, somebody else's sacred house. I act placid as they set God's house alight to keep them warm. And when they're done, I put out their flames with acid, scooping up the flesh that's left behind, knowing these scars will heal with time, because who does not want a woman who can heal like alchemy, who can ease pains and sorrows, mixing elixirs out of tears, clothes, and aloes? Please tell me, who doesn't want a woman who can give all of herself until she is hollow? God's home is hollow. I am shallow, yet drowning still. It's best I'm single, that's God's will. Pen has lifted, feather and quill, because we are remodeling. house into home, so the next man who enters will have to take off his shoes and bow at God's throne. Thank you.